Alright, so continuing on with the whole client and server programming here for graphical with Crazy Eddie's GUI. Continuing on with that part is part 2 here of that. My name is Dave Nestler and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Now, let's have a look at the class chatwindow.cpp file. Last time we ended up finishing up chatwindow.h. Now we're going to do a chatwindow.cpp. So in order to create this, we're going to go over to File, New, and then File, right? And then we're going to choose Source, C, C++. Then I'm going to say Go. I'm going to say Next. I'm going to say C++. That's important. And we're going to check both Debug and Release. And we're going to give it the name, which would be chatwindow.cpp, like this. And then I'm going to say ... here, and now I just would say save. Now I can't do that because it'll wipe over the current one I have, which I don't want to do. And then you're going to say finish, but you are going to say save. And then you're going to say finish, and that will create the new file. Alright, at the top of this file, you'll note that we have a bunch of stuff over here. We don't have to worry about including this. And the reason we don't have to worry about including this is because, well, all that comes for the ride when we include this one here. So we don't need to redeclare that inside of this. Alright, so all we need to do is pull in #include space in quotations chatwindow.h close quotations, and it is case sensitive, so capitalization and lowercase matter. So because of this, you automatically get all this here brought into this file. So that really makes life easier. You don't have to import as much stuff. Now, before here, we actually declared the different parts of our class and saying we're going to use this, we're going to do that, we're going to use this, etc., etc. But over here, we're actually going to define what those parts meant and actually lay it out for the actual code being executed. So, and you can technically put it all into a .h if you really want to, but it's kind of, well, most programmers don't do that first off. It's kind of messy if you do. You want to break things up as much as possible, because now you have all your declarations in one place and you have all your definitions in another. So now you don't have to go hunting all over the place. It also makes the code file shorter, so it makes life easier for when you're hunting down something that you want to find. It just makes things cleaner, prettier, and easier to work with. So of course that's why you want to do it. So that's why we have our chatwindow.cpp. And once we include this file over here into our main file, we don't also have to include our CPP. We only include the .h, and thereby doing so, it automatically finds the proper files and everything. So there we go. So yeah, just that .h there, and it'll automatically bring the CPP over too. So that may be confusing at first, but that works fine. It works. It just works great. Don't worry about it. But it does need to be the same name as your chatwindow.h here. So it also has to be chatwindow, spelled exactly the same, .cpp for it to correlate with this file over here. And it needs to be included here. Alright, so int space game chat window : instance semicolon. Alright, and this is scoping. Now we've been doing scope earlier with STD and CEGUI. Well, you haven't been seeing CEGUI. STD and SDL. Well, did we use it? Don't know. No, not SDL, but STD. Yeah, standard lib. We definitely did a number of times. So you had to put the STD : from it. That's the scope operator because of the namespace problem. Well, we're getting to the same thing. We have to scope in our class so that we know what is part of our class and what isn't for our definitions here. So int space game chat window : instance. Now if you remember right, that's right here, and this was a static. Because this is a static, we need to come in here and declare it at the top of the window, otherwise it won't work. So you need to do that for all statics. Suggested that you don't put statics inside of a class because static is well, anyways, but this works fine and it gets what we want done. So anyhow, Client network here, space, game chat window, : network, open parentheses, in quotes here, 192.168.11.129, close quotes. Alright, and that happens to be what it is for my virtual machine here. Let me show you real quick. Here's how you find out what your IP address is. Do ifconfig. On Windows it's ipconfig, but on Linux it's ifconfig. Okay, like that. And 192.168.11.129, and that's what my current IP address is. So I'm running my server on the same machine with myself. I can also launch another virtual machine in a bit if I like, and probably need to downgrade the number of cores this thing uses if I do that, and run 2 clients that connect to the server. And I just don't want to run 3 virtual machines because it's going to be, I could do it, but trying to record a video at the same time would be tough. So could definitely do it without recording the video, but with recording the video would be trouble. So I'm going to refrain from that. At the very end I might sit there and run 2 virtual machines that are networked with it with, I don't know, it's just if I feel like doing it, I guess. If I feel like going through the effort. Alright, so there's that. And there's also 7770, as you remember from the server programming one. Close parentheses, semicolon. Okay. Okay, so that sets us up for the port. Okay, so game chat window, : game chat window, open close parentheses, open curly brace here, chat window equals null, semicolon. Yeah, it's always good setting up as null. I kept in the comments from Crazy Eddie GUI's tutorial on, not this one. He had a good tutorial on, he had some good tutorials. This one right here, game console, let's call it, just happened to line up with what I was doing. But there was some errors in the code and had to make some corrections because the code doesn't work right out of the box from this tutorial, believe it or not. So that's unfortunate, but it works here. So this is like the working version, if you will. Okay, so game chat window, : game chat window, open close parentheses, open curly brace here, chat window equals null, semicolon, already said that. Okay, so instance equals 0, semicolon, so we're starting off for instance with no instances. Prefix equals open close quotes, semicolon. We're going to do a prefix to go with our naming prefix, basically. And then layout equals, in quotes here, client server chat dot layout, close quotes, close semicolon. Alright, and so this is a layout file that we're going to load. And that was this right over here that we finished coding up last time. That was that layout. So that layout's going to get loaded in. Close curly brace, and this ends our constructor, where literally all you do in your constructor essentially is to set values for variables so that they don't start out with nothing in them, so that way when your class gets going it starts out with proper values for starting, initialized, if you will. Okay, so void game chat window : create CEGUI with Crazy Eddie graphical user interface window here, open close parentheses. So yeah, CEGUI window, open close parentheses, open curly brace. And I left it in the comments because it'll probably help you a lot. He's got some really good comments, so I just kept them in there. Setting the default resource groups for each of the CEGUI resource managers, and then as mapped in the resources.cfg. Alright, so I think I wrote this up actually. Oh well. Anyhow, in this I set up the resource manager I was showing a second ago. Let me show you that file. Let me just grab a few of these files here. So that's the resource manager, and here's our layout again. So if you don't remember, there it is. I'm going to go over to highlight mode, XML, and bam, now you can see our layout. Yep. Oh, that's an older one. It's not the same one. At least I thought that was an older one. Yeah, it's not the same one. Oh, here we go. I was like, what? Alright. Yeah. Not the same one. It's not the one that's being used in the project. That was my older one I had to edit. Wrong one. Sorry. Where is it? There's too many files. Here it is. Okay. There we go. Oh, and just another quick word. I had to do a few things here to make the project work. Let's go into SDL here. No, not SDL right now. I'm going to stay in my gamepad here. Oh, here. Okay. So I did a bunch of symbolic links in case it wasn't finding it. And I told it CEGUI now. As my preference for where it should go. I mean, the resources should point to where it should be. But if it doesn't find it, then you may need to do symbolic links. And I ended up doing symbolic links from all the different parts so that it would find it for Ogre, for instance, here. Dropping it into each folder as needed. So I just copied it in because keeping it organized wasn't making it execute. So I started if you have trouble getting the resources here to actually get to go where, so supposedly the resource is supposed to point to where the folders are and it's supposed to be able to find them, which is what I've done here. But if that doesn't work for you, then drag and drop symbolic links into where you want them to go, because you'll need to do that. But let's set the resource groups so it can be read in, and we can set the different default resource groups for different sets here, and we're using these as tags here from the XML type documents here for it to find what ones are what. Well, at least I thought it was XML. Maybe it's not. Well, it doesn't matter. No, sorry, CFG file instead. Alright, so open close brackets fonts here. So we're going to read in fonts, for instance, and it's going to get set to font here. So it sets as a default resource group. So it gets its location for that in CEGUI. And then the system knows where to find fonts. Same thing here. CEGUI image set here with a colon CEGUI for the namespace for scoping it in. And we're just going to do set default resource group for each one. So it's the same thing, and all we're doing is changing this part right here for each one of these. Okay. Otherwise, the code is identical, and we just tell it which one we're reading in. In this case, we're doing image sets with image set, and we're doing schemes with scheme, and we're doing look and feel with widget look manager, and we're doing window manager with layouts. And so in this way, we're telling it what directory for each one of these folders exists. And if you look at the setup here I have, in the organized fashion that it is inside of here, yes, CEGUI layouts for layouts, image sets for image sets, look and feel for look and feel, fonts for fonts, schemes for schemes, so on and so forth. So that keeps everything nice and neat. So hopefully with that, you don't have to sit there and string files all over the place like I had to in the first place before I implemented that, because I implemented that later. but I haven't really deleted it to verify that I can get away with getting rid of those links. So, and I don't want to do it in the middle of the video. So, maybe I'll try it in between the videos here in the next one set here, just to see if it works by deleting those other videos, and then I'll report back to you. But alright, so that does that code there. Alright, so we need to set our local pointer, and this is for the window, and for window manager actually, so we can make use of it. So CEGUI : window manager space star p window manager space equals space CEGUI : window manager : get singleton PTR for the pointer, open close parentheses semicolon. Alright, so what does all this mean? So we're getting the pointer for singleton, meaning only one execution of this window, of the window manager for CEGUI, and that is becoming the window manager here as the variable, and it's a pointer to it, which makes a lot of sense. So that's what this pointer here, get singleton pointer, is about. So now we can sit there and pass this thing around as the address to the memory instead of moving and copying that memory over and over again, which would be highly inefficient. So the pointer is definitely the way to go. CEGUI : scheme manager : get singleton open close parentheses dot create here open parentheses quotes here ogre tray dot scheme close quotes close parentheses semicolon. Okay, so we are loading the ogre scheme, or ogre, basically the ogre system for the visual part here, aka that basically means this GUI setup here. So see how we get these graphical type windows and stuff for ogre? It's like the whole entire setup: list boxes, check boxes, combo boxes, you name it, buttons, etc. Everything, static text, everything. Alright, let's see here. So from there, we're going to do CEGUI : system : get singleton open close parentheses dot set default mouse cursor open parentheses quotes here ogre tray images. Yeah, believe it or not, it's not ogre tray, it's ogre tray images, and that can be found in a very special file. Okay, so here's the ogre image set. Here's the look and feel, and here's the scheme. Let's open these back up again real quick. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to edit, highlight mode, edit, highlight mode, edit, highlight mode. Okay, cool. And here in the image set, you can see that the name is ogre tray images. And because of that, we need to call it ogre tray images. So that way it can find the actual cursor within this setup here. If I'm not mistaken. Mouse arrow. Yep. So there it is. And this defines out its layout in the image. You might be wondering where on earth that is. Hold on. Every question creates another question. Alright. So if I dive here into my image sets, we can see that it's set up here, and if this would be defining out the space of where this cursor is graphically in the setup. So then it can just load up these different graphics in our setup for the GUI. And there we are. And that basically lays out where things go. Alright. So that's how we got into Ogre Tray Images and got the mouse arrow. So close parentheses, semicolon. Alright, so now we need to set up a prefix before we load anything, and the reason why is so that in case we have multiple instances, we don't have conflicts between them because they end up having the same name. So in his example here, he shows there's an underscore from Crazy Eddie GUIs, from Crazy Eddie. So it's a really good explanation of that. So basically, if you had another instance, you'd have underscore underscore for the name, and this way you don't end up with two windows with the same name, and you'd have multiple windows at this rate. And that's really important, especially once we get to doing the node-based editing for the shading system here coming up later on as part 2 of the series. Well, I guess actually it's like part 3. But for the CG shading series part, when we start doing that with Crazy Eddie's GUI system using SDL setup here that we've done for doing editing for the node-based shading, and we go further into OpenGL programming with it, that's going to be extremely important, and we'll find it to be very useful. So, kind of important, especially when you need two like ads or two light models of the same light model, or two, I mean, you name it, two textures, two UV spaces, two whatever, all that stuff. You'll need all that, and basically, the more of this that you can do, the better off you are. Alright, so let's have a look at what we can do. So chat window equals P window manager, load window layout with an arrow here, of course. So we're dereferencing this and pointing to this in memory. Layout, comma, prefix. So here we have our layout that we're loading in. Remember, our layout is what? It is this one right here, which is to say graphically that window here. So yeah, it literally just loads in this whole window and we don't have to code it up. And that's really nice. And that's what I was saying, you can really save yourself a lot of headaches. You could make changes to this file here and just have it loaded in and work, literally, and without having to go back in and change the code that's been precompiled here. So it literally allows people to customize and change the application after it's been compiled without having to go back and bug the programmer about doing another configuration. And in this way, it makes your application more flexible and more powerful. So, very cool and very powerful and awesome. Alright, I want a space there. I like a space. It's cleaner. Alright, so layout, prefix, here, and then semicolon. So, we're going to do find out if the window is valid, which he's right, should be a good programmer. So chat window here, and then let's get the GUI sheet here. So CEGUI ::system : get singleton ptr open close parentheses arrow set GUI sheet open parentheses chat window close parentheses semicolon. So there we are for doing setting the GUI sheet here for what window it is, and we're setting this for the chat window. So above here we created the window with the window manager. And here we created from the window manager that particular layout and loaded it into chat window. And here we are actually setting that as the GUI sheet for the system here. And by doing that, that becomes the window for the system. I'm going to say this, and we're going to say register handlers. Alright, so what is this? This is a very special pointer. Basically, this points back to this actual class. So it's a pointer that points to itself. In some other programming languages, you'll see it called self, or this, or I mean, there's pretty much the two main names for it. It's this and self. In C++, it's this. And basically, what this does is allows you to reference yourself within inside of this class here, so that way you have a good way of calling back to the class that's being defined. So we're dereferencing the pointer to itself, which is this, and saying the function register handlers, open close parentheses. Now if you remember right, register handlers was right here as a void. And that function is right here, well, next, which we now call a method, because it's inside the class. So you have to rename everything when you get to a class. But it's still function. I don't care what you say, it's still function. Alright, so chat window. But it does make more sense to do this, though, because now if you say a method versus a function, you know a function is not part of a class, and you know a method is a function that is part of a class. So it just makes, for terminology, it makes it easier and clear what someone's talking about without having to say function class or something like that, class function or blah blah blah. It just makes life a little easier for terminology, to be a little more specific with just one word what you're talking about, so you don't have to say as many words to explain something. That's the only reason for it, really. Okay, so chat window, arrow, set user data, open close parentheses, this, semicolon. So with this, we're setting up the user data for handling different aspects of the window. Okay. And there's a nice little tutorial actually on user data up on Crazy Eddie GUI's setup here. I think I already went past it earlier. Yeah, user data right here. So if you want to read more about user data, just pop into Crazy Eddie's GUI setup here and look at some more information on it. And I do recommend you go in here and read some of these because they're actually quite good, and he does a good job explaining stuff and breaking it down. So I guess the trick though is to this whole thing for Crazy Eddie GUI is finding code that compiles and right out of the box, and also tying together all the pieces to where you can make sense of the whole process in one cohesive lump sum. It's a really good GUI programming system. It's excellent. He did an amazing job. Can't thank the guy enough for it. I mean, he's awesome. It's just a little hard to figure it out. He did a great job explaining things and whatnot, but it's just hard to figure out what order to read things in, and what pertains to what, and how this ties together, and I don't know, finding some of the code where it actually will execute also is a trick too. So that actually works. You know, it's a trick also. It's really hard to find anything online that covered it. So, but anyways, so close curly brace here, else, open curly brace, and then CEGUI : logger : get singleton, open close parentheses, dot log event, open parentheses, quotes here, error colon, unable to load the chat window from dot layout, close quotes, close parentheses, semicolon, close curly brace here. Okay, load game chat window, : register handlers, open close parentheses, open curly brace. Alright, so you're setting up a logger, and this logger is important. And that's what this else is. So if there's any problems, it gets dumped to the log file. As a matter of fact, if you don't have the log file, you need the entire log file when you post it if you need help from Crazy Eddie. He is one guy though, and he's trying to help lots of people. And he handles things in the order of oldest first. So that way he gets to people who've been waiting the longest. And that makes sense to handle it that way. So if you bump it your post to where you're sitting there and making it newer and newer, you're more likely to make it to where he doesn't see your post. It'll take you even longer to be seen. The other thing is that don't be rude. The guy's really cool, and he's by himself on helping people out of the goodness of his own heart. And the fact that he's put this whole thing together and released it for free for everyone to use is nothing short of amazing. Because if you start looking through the amount of code that's involved on this system, it's insane. There's so much code for this GUI interface, which is not surprising considering it's a GUI interface. But the dude's super awesome, and just, you know, if you do need help, be patient, because it is just him. And again, it's, he doesn't owe you anything, and he's not required to help you. So certainly don't be rude ever, please. Okay, so but you need the logger for that. Also for your own sanity. I found the logger to be extremely useful for my own mental state, for finding errors. It really does help you find errors. And once you just mess with Crazy Eddie's for a while, you can actually solve your own problems readily without having to post to him, which is probably a good thing. So we don't bug him as much as possible, because he looks like he's really swamped with all the people asking him help. But where is it? There's a log file in here. Let's see, it is... well, where is it dumping the log file? I don't remember. There is a log file. Just need to find it. Crazy thing is, I just looked at it not too long ago, like yesterday. Here it is, CEGUI log. Alright, there you are. Alright, and then so in here you can see your whole execution of your program as it goes through for all the different parts of Crazy Eddie GUI, and it's doing all kinds of things you didn't even realize it was doing. As it goes through all the code, sets up all the different parts and loads in things and creates them in memory and all this stuff for you. It's awesome. So it goes through and does this whole setup. And if there's an error, you can see where the error is and what's going on. And it tells you what's going on when it's doing it, right? So you know that is doing the look and feel part file. And you know if there's an error in here, you know in what file it's occurring in. Cool. So like, check it out. If you're in here in the layouts, right, and you have your look and feel down here at the bottom, I believe it was, yeah, your look and feel in here, I can actually go into this file and look where it's having an error, because check it out, the loading corresponds with this file for look and feel. So here you can see all kinds of stuff about how it's defined for the absolute dim and also for BG test, title bar, etc. for these different parts here. So all these little things we just took it for granted. We were just throwing up this title bar, like in here. It's like, oh, okay, it's throwing the text here and it goes across the title bar for this window called chat. Awesome, that's the title bar right there. So, okay, so back over here you can actually see the code that actually defines the title bar. So, wow. And Crazy Eddie GUI System uses Crazy Eddie GUI System to do its parts. So essentially, this is all being considered its own window, if you will, which makes sense. So this lays this out for how that is defined and makes it work. So that's pretty cool. See the caption, if it's inactive, if it's active, if it's disabled, all the way down to the end of the widget. So that whole block of code right there is just the title bar. And that's why Crazy Eddie's GUI system is so unbelievably useful. Because otherwise, the amount of code you'd have to write would be several 100,000 lines of code, I have no doubt. Maybe more, who knows. It's a lot of code, and it saves you a lot of time and headaches, and it's made it very easy, and it's awesome. So, this lets you find where the error is, though. So if you come back over here to your log file, you can see, oh, it was in the look and feel, and it was the tab button pane. Now, obviously, it worked correctly because we have STD here, so it worked great. If it didn't, it would give me an error up here, so it wouldn't say successfully completed loading of blah blah blah. I did run into this earlier where I had an error and I worked through it, but this was immensely helpful. And I would just literally go through tab pane, window, blah blah blah. There's menu bar. There's tab button. So here's tab button pane right here, and that's the one we were looking at. So you can see how these could get loaded in as such. And then it also properly loaded my layout. So client server chat.layout file here. So that was that layout file that we just loaded a second ago right here in our programming window. So remember that our layout up here. So here it is, and it did get loaded in, and it did get set to the window and everything, and it got logged that it went successfully. So this is really useful. If there is a problem, it gets logged that there's a problem and what the problem was. So that really helps you hunt it down and figure out what file is not working properly, and usually some kind of location error or a wrong name or something like that for something, typically. And that was what it was for my case too. And then that's how you can troubleshoot it. So extremely helpful, yes. Okay, so let's get into the register handlers. So void space game chat window : register handlers, open close parentheses, open curly brace here. Alright, so what is this? Basically, this is the events when you're clicking on, for instance, say you want to click on send, or say you want to, in this case, we're clicking on our edit box, and even though we want the enter key to be the return aspect for it, doesn't really work that way. We have the list box here for listing it. Although it's probably totally possible to set that up where it does do submission based on enter key. Right now it's set to event mouse click though. So because of that there for text getting submitted, for the edit box, you click on the edit box to make it submit the text instead of hitting the enter key for people who are too lazy to click on the send button, I guess. Alright. So basically we set this up, and it's the same method every time. You do a chat window here, and then you point to your get child. It's a child of the chat window, which is, you know, what's child of the chat window. This is a child of the chat window, that's a child of the chat window, that's a child of the chat window, etc., etc., etc. And this are the two ones we're interested in. Alright, so we're going to do our prefix plus quotes here, chat window / chat send btn for button, close quotes, close parentheses, arrow, subscribe event, open parentheses. Okay, cool. And then we have CEGUI : push button : event clicked, comma. Alright, so what's push button event? That means when we click on this button here, that's going to be a push button, and that's going to cause the event for it to be clicked. Now, if we come over here and we look at the layout, well, you'll see Ogre Tray button, and that corresponds to Crazy Eddie GUI as a push button. So that's why we're doing push button there. Showing where that's coming from for the code, for the definition of Ogre chat window system here, for the, not chat window, sorry, Ogre GUI system here for the layout, and how it works with Crazy Eddie's GUI. So because we are doing Crazy Eddie GUI for a push button here, and it's an event clicked, so that's the type of event. So this is a clicking event with our mouse. And then we're going to say, comma, CEGUI : event : subscriber, open close, open parentheses. So now we need to say, okay, what do we do when that button is clicked? So here we're saying, hey, on the event that someone clicks on the button, what do I do?
So over here we're saying, well, this is what you do when someone clicks on that button. We're going to grab this function right here, or shall we say method, since it's part of the class, and it's going to correspond with this class here, and that's going to make it work. So we're going to do whatever is in this button, in this function here, send button pressed. Okay. So and here game chat window : send button pressed, comma, this close parentheses semicolon. All right, and that will let you send the text to the window and also to the server. And we'll get into that in just a second, but that's basically what happens there. Okay. So next, same exact thing without the comments. But the comments, I left them here because they're really good comments. He did an amazing job, so I left them in because I thought they were great. So chat window here, get child here, open parentheses, prefix plus, in quotes here, chat window / chat client EB for edit box, close quotes here, close parentheses, arrow, subscribe event, open parentheses here, CEGUI, : edit box, : event mouse click, comma, CEGUI, : event, : subscriber, open parentheses, and sign here for our pointer, game chat window, : text submitted, comma, this. Alright, let's talk about this for a second. Alright, so chat window, get child here, the prefix here, subscribe event here, of course. So we're saying what happens. Well, on the event, someone clicks on the edit box here. So you don't have to move the cursor all the way over here to click on it. They can just click on this and hold it down. It's going to go ahead and send the message. And then CEGUI here, : event, : subscriber. What function do we run? And we're going to do the text submitted. So that way we don't have to do what? We don't have to go through the process of well, basically it sends the message, shall we say, that's one typed. Okay, so let's look at what these do here.